Hello there. I just finished watching Marijuana Conspiracy, and I wanted to do a little review about it. It dealt with three main issues that I'll discuss. It was a typical Canadian movie. It was shot in Toronto. It had Derek McGrath, who's in a lot of Canadian films and different stuff. He's a solid actor. And two of my favorite actresses in this was Brittany Barstow and Morgan Cohan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Never heard of them before, but I thought they were really well, really gave a really good performance, and they were just spectacular in the role that they were trying to portray. So it was in the time period of '72, and you got to think back then, which is hard if you're young, to a time when marijuana was not legal. Not only was it not legal, it was really frowned upon. But yet, many people were doing it. I grew up and I had a friend who was our neighborhood dealer. Now, I never did drugs, but most or many of my friends did. But you had to know somebody to get some. And he was pretty good. He never got ratted out on people and stuff like that. But one night, a friend of his asked for some. He went out and he ended up getting nabbed because that guy got nabbed. So he wanted to reduce his penalty by ratting on a bigger fish. And so my friend got nabbed for that, unfortunately. But what I was able to learn from it is that it wasn't as bad using it as the authorities made it out to be. And so you'll see this in the film. At the end, they kind of do a wrap-up and they explain why the study was done and what happened. So I was in Ottawa at the time, and I saw Trudeau, the older Pierre. I met him a couple times in life. He didn't know who I was, but I introduced myself and said hi. Once at Whistler, and I used to work up, so I saw him all the time. I thought he was a great guy, to be honest, and we were lucky to have him as a leader. Although in this case, the movie portrays him as really, what's the right word? Cunning in the reason for the study. I don't want to spoil it by telling you what happens. You have to watch the movie and find out. But it is interesting now to see his son in charge and what the different stance he takes. So the three issues that they dealt with were marijuana use, and then there was a side issue of sexuality, and then the third one is isolation. So this movie in some parts is similar to the Stanford experiment, if anyone has seen that. A different issue, but in similar respects of isolation and how people deal with that. So they were promised money if they stayed for the length of the experiment, and all but one did. And then, of course, they could measure them in different respects. And so, as I say, Brittany and Morgan really do a great job of showing Canadian mannerisms and reactions to this. So I was proud of that aspect in the movie. I grew up at this time period, and living in Canada was a blast. So I'm proud of Canadians and Canada in the respect that we're much more thoughtful and caring in these issues, and we don't react in the American way, which is I like to refer to as the reefer madness type hysteria. That was always bandied about in those days, how you were going to go and do something crazy, and this was just malarkey and silliness. And I came to that conclusion for certain when I read the book Consensual Crimes. I could put a link in actually and clue you into that. It was a groundbreaking book, huge book. I didn't think I could get through it, but when I did read that book, I learned a lot about how we were all being used and conned for purposes of authority and whatnot. And I was a bit at a loss because I never did marijuana, but I realized that when my friends did it, all they were doing was being silly. That was the worst thing. They didn't go out and have, you know, dark images of things like that and wanting to do immoral things. That was just silliness. So we were all played in that time period for suckers. There was never any danger. But I must say that you'll have to do your own research on, are there any long-term effects, because I'm not sure that the effects are nil. Especially when I read, and they did point this out in the film, that there are more ill effects from alcohol. And I did just finish a book, I think it's called Drink or something like that. I can put a link in again. And alcohol does have many side effects, and it's not great for you drinking alcohol, and it's certainly worse for you than marijuana is. So, but you'll have to decide on your own what the effects are. You can't say there's no effects, because that's not true either. So I highly recommend you watch the movie. It was very well done. It's 2 hours long. Lots of laughs, lots of great tunes in it too. Of course, they have The Pusher by Steppenwolf and One Took Over the Line. A couple other good tunes. And I just thought the issue they dealt with for lesbianism was very well done. I also dealt with this issue that my friend who I spoke of earlier, he was also dealing with that issue, and I learned a lot from him about that. At the time, many people weren't sensitive to this issue. It was certainly a crime. I remember people in the government were being arrested and locked up for it. You couldn't admit to it. And in the States, they had the great Stonewall riots. I might put a link into that too. That was a big issue. And I realized that they were no less loving people than heterosexuals or straight people. So back in those days, we didn't know a lot. We were really ignorant on a lot of issues. Thankfully, experiments like this done in the movie and different things, we became more educated, we became more sensitive to these issues. Like the one character, that the woman, she kind of represents rightful thinking, and those who are thinking clearly and sensitively, and you can see her change her attitude as well. And so someone who's a writer that would say that character represents the thinking of society, how we were ignorant and a lot of people looked down on it, and then we changed into being more sensitive, more caring, more thoughtful about not only the drug, but people who were homosexual or lesbians. So I think that was great. You could see her actually change because of one of the scenes. I think her name's Marie Ward. And so that was very sensitive and very well dealt with as well. So I hope I'm not leaving anything out. I'm doing this without the benefit of any notes, just going on my recollection. And I thought it was just a very well done, typical Canadian movie that deserves being watched and admired for all the issues that it brings up. Okay? So I guess I'll leave it there. Okay, thanks.